Greetings, friends. It's Pat at Dancing Moon Travel here with another episode of Let's Talk Travel. And if you've been following us in the month of June, you know that we have been departing a bit from our usual format, where we usually feature a guest from some aspect of the travel industry, BDMs and so forth, about some provider usually. This month we have departed from that to feature our independent agents who work with Dancing Moon Travel. And we have all been on the move and traveling about. And so we're sharing some of the experiences our people have had out there in the real travel world. And this month we are featuring our agent, Jason Odell. Good evening, Jason. Good
Hey,
to see
Pat.
you.
Good to see you too.
And we just want to share some of our personal travel experiences so you know the real scoop on what's going on out there from our personal experience and learn about some of the experiences that we have had recently. Jason, let's just start. Introduce yourself. Some of our people may not know you yet, and tell us a bit about your background and how you made your way to the travel industry and Dancing Moon Travel.
Well, thanks, Pat. Like you said, my name is Jason Odell. I'm in Colorado, USA, Colorado Springs, to be exact. So I'm about, 60, 70 miles south of Denver. And I've been here living in Colorado since 2002. And my background is kind of diverse. My background is actually in science. I have a doctorate in biology, and I came out here for a job related to that once upon a time, and then bounced around. My other real personal passion has been photography, and that's kind of how I met you. In 2007, I started as a side hustle, so to speak, doing photography tours and workshops, mostly wildlife and landscape photography workshops. And that's how we found each other. I want to say it was 2015, I think, when you...
That sounds about right.
2015, when you first reached out to me, 2016, somewhere in there, about doing a photo workshop on a cruise. And we did that, and it was great. It was fun. And so I'm currently going through what a lot of us are, which is, reinventing ourselves during interesting times and uncertainty. But I have my photography business, and I am now an independent contractor with Dancing Moon Travel. And I set up a Facebook page called Luminescent Travel to sort of work in with my business with photography. So a little bit of everything.
Well, we're really glad that drew you in. It was really, I think you officially came on board just before the pandemic hit. So it was,
brilliant timing, wasn't it, Pat?
It just was one of those crazy things. But that kind of happened to me when I first got into the travel business. Also, it was the recession hit right after, but it gave me a chance to figure out what I was doing for a year or two.
I think we have some time to do that too now. So
Exactly. So what we're aiming to do with this broadcast is share a bit of our own experiences in the travel industry. And this evening, we wanted to focus on your recent experience when you did a transatlantic sailing aboard Cunard. First of all, did this live up to your expectations?
Oh, it exceeded my expectations. And we can get into that. But I didn't really know what to think expectation wise, other than when I had the opportunity to go on this crossing, it was very exciting to me, because it was the Queen Mary 2, which is the only real ocean liner that's out there, in terms of what we used to think in the old days. So it has all the historical ties with Cunard, going back to Queen Elizabeth, QE2, and Queen Mary, the original Queen Mary. And when I was a kid, we'd visit my grandparents in Southern California every year. And one of the things we would do, we'd make all the stops, Disneyland, but we would almost always go and visit the Queen Mary, and the original one. And that was one of our things, the tourist stops that we did, and she's still there. And that was really interesting to see that. I will say Queen Mary 2 is head and shoulders above the original Queen Mary, of course, obviously much more modern. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but it really blew me away.
So, Jason, I know you have done a number of cruises aboard various other cruise lines, and how would you say that the Cunard experience compared with cruises you've taken on some of these other ships?
Um, well, I mean, in context, first of all, a transatlantic crossing is different. You don't have any ports of call, so you're going to be on the ship for every day you're at sea.
Mhm.
And so I wasn't really sure what to make of that. But compared to the other cruises I've been on, it was a little bit more upscale. The demographic is different. There were some kids on board, but not many. Although I was traveling at the beginning of the season, so the summer tends to be more when you'll have these trips. There's a reputation of Cunard to be a little more formal, and that's true, but it wasn't overly done. It wasn't like you had to have a tuxedo or anything every night to go in the dining room.
There were those days when you couldn't get in the dining room unless you had a jacket and tie on if you were a gentleman. That's true.
Right. I mean, I had a couple sport coats and shirts, but I didn't usually wear a tie unless it was the formal night, and I enjoyed the formal night. It was great. I went with my girlfriend, and we had an amazing time playing dress up. And but a little bit more refined. I mean, I like to describe the experience as being awfully British in the best possible way. It was the best. You have that definite feel of things are done in a certain British way,
A little
and it wasn't
proper.
kitschy. It was more elegant. Everything was just a little bit more refined. And I haven't been on the high end cruise lines. Like, I haven't experienced the range that you have, but it was very nice. I would certainly I would not hesitate to take another trip aboard a Cunard experience.
Excellent. What about accommodations, Jason? Tell us a little bit about your stateroom, the location, finishes, the layout. How did it compare?
Pretty typical. It was nice. We had what was called a sheltered balcony. So we had a balcony, but it didn't have like the glass veranda or anything like that. It was hole in the side of the ship, and we were on a lower deck. We were on deck 4, but I'll tell you, it was nice. We had a very nice sitting area. You're never going to go in a cruise ship and say you have an enormous space in a stateroom, but we had plenty of space to stretch out and spread out, and having the balcony was nice. The protected balcony was fine for what I was considering. You're at sea every day, so it's not like there's much to look at except for the water going by, and having that little bit of wind protection didn't bother me at all. It was kind of nice.
I have several clients who actually have developed an affinity for those sheltered balcony. Different cruise lines have different names for them, but they've become a little more popular recently, and they like being down closer to the water and being able to kind of see what's happening on the water a little better. And they like the shelter from the wind. They feel like they can be out there while the ship is steaming along. And enjoy the balcony, where sometimes it can be, practically blow the hair off your head. Well, that may have happened as well there. I don't know, Jason, is that?
I don't know what's going on up there, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you something too. Having the balcony, whether or not you really sit out there for extended times, is nice. Especially before the voyage started, we could look at it, see New York City, and having a view is certainly a nice thing. But just being able to step out, have some fresh air, very nice. Being on a lower deck didn't bother me either. It was incredible. Well, I will say we had very favorable seas during our crossing, but the Queen Mary 2 was absolutely steady, smooth. 7 nights on that ship, only one where the wind picked up did I even really notice any kind of movement whatsoever. Got off in Southampton without any sea legs or any feeling that I had been on a ship at all. It was really stable and impressive.
And off topic a little bit, that is something just in the cruise industry in general now, and I know the Queen Mary, being an ocean liner, she is specially constructed to handle the seas of the Atlantic, but um, I mean, the stability of the ships in general these days, the computerized stabilization. I know when we were out on a couple of the ships, I never, and I'm motion sensitive, and I didn't realize we were having some higher seas at all until I really looked out on it, because the ships are just that stable. They are really doing a great job with you've really got to have some wave action going on before you begin to notice it these days on the newer ships. It's really good, and those who are motion sensitive, uh, just realize that maybe you've not wanted to cruise in the past because of that. I would say go for it. I know I have not even put on the patch, the scopolamine,
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of times I've sailed, because totally unnecessary, despite sometimes when we had high seas.
I brought all the
Anyway,
stuff. I didn't use it. Didn't
yeah,
need it at all.
off on a little bit of a tangent there, but what about food, Jason? I always want to know any memorable dining experiences. Were
Well,
there
there was no
unexpected?
shortage. Um, the Queen Mary was set up like you would expect. Most cruises these days, you've got the large main dining room. There's a that's the main dining room aboard Queen Mary. There are some private dining rooms for upgraded cabin classes. And Cunard calls it the grill class,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds weird, but it was named because they had access to these special restaurants, which were the grills. And so there's the Princess Grill, the Queen's Grill, and they have their own private dining areas if you have if you upgrade your stateroom to that level. The main dining room was great. Then you have the buffet areas, which just like the other, but they had I noticed particularly had lots of options for gluten-free right there in the buffet. They had a gluten-free section. There's we went to the steakhouse on board one night as part of our group. Tremendous. I mean, just I I probably put on a few pounds. Let's just put it that way. The reputation of the British in cooking don't that reputation is long gone. You will get wonderful food aboard the Queen Mary, and plenty of it, and then of course all the other opportunities to eat during the during the cruise. So there's the tea service and all this, so there's no shortage of times to eat.
Did you go to the high tea at all?
I did, actually. I went twice. The first day was pretty crowded. The second time we went to it, and it was a little easier to get in. They hold it in a ballroom where they normally have dancing, and there's just tables, and they come by with the finger sandwiches and the little sweets, and then of course the scones with clotted cream, which are just divine. They're so good. And you can't say no to that kind of eating opportunity, Pat. I would say you would definitely like it.
I am sure I would. I love, one of the things that Marvin and I have loved to do through the years is go to tea rooms, and it's just really a fun thing to do, and love those tea sandwiches and the scones and the clotted cream and the whole thing. But what's one thing that you absolutely loved, some feature or something that stood out for you? And on the other side, anything that you could say, you could change that. I just wasn't a big fan.
Well, so here was one thing that I really liked, and I'll give you sort of a broad example and then a more specific example. The Queen Mary doing these transatlantic crossings, that's pretty much what she's doing right now, just straight up back and forth. You're at sea for 7 days. I was apprehensive about what the heck was I going to do to stay entertained without any kind of excursions or shore trips or anything like that. I was wrong. There was a lot of stuff to do. They had talks on board, kind of like mini TED Talks almost, with experts in particular fields. They had a lot of organized stuff going on. They had things that I didn't stay up late enough to do, like the dancing and the other things, because I was kind of wiped out. But one thing that's really cool about the Queen Mary is that it has, I kid you not, a planetarium on board. They have
Yes.
a no kidding plan. I think it's the only one apparently at sea, and the screens kind of come down. It's sort of a semicircle, like a dome, and you sit under it, and you can go to a planetarium show, and it was very cool, and it was fun. And it was free, but you had to kind of register for tickets to it. You had to sign up for these things. And so the thing that wasn't, if there was something they could work on better, Cunard Wi-Fi, and they don't have an app. The
Mm.
way that their
Oh,
system worked with you trying to get online, they had shipboard Wi-Fi that was free, to use their little system, but their booking system was glitchy. And when I did use the actual Wi-Fi, it was really sketchy in the staterooms. And uh, one of our companions in the group that we were with, it was an IT guy, and he said, "Hey, take your shoe and prop the stateroom door open about 8 or 10 inches, and the next thing you know, the Wi-Fi comes in." And sure enough, it worked, because those doors, even though they have the Wi-Fi network set up in the ship, when you're in your cabin, it was really hard to get any kind of connectivity. So prop your door open and you could get
that
online.
amazing. Those little tricks. It took an IT person to come up with very
Yeah.
technical fix there, right?
Yes, just prop open your door, and that's not a problem with their Wi-Fi. That's a problem with the fact that the ship is metal and you've got doors. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
physics for you,
And
unfortunately.
those doors are they do fit very tightly for all kinds of various reasons related to the
Exactly.
fact that you're at sea. Um, so Jason, this is one. This sailing was actually, you were on board for a group event. You were really on a seminar at sea with a bunch of travel professionals from our host agency. And
Mhm.
so, how many people? Just kind of ballpark, and just tell us a little bit about the details about how that went.
I would say there was probably like 30 or 40 of us, because it was the advisors plus their significant others or their spouses. So it wasn't a huge group, but it was a decent sized group. And we used the meeting space aboard Queen Mary 2 for a couple of morning presentations that went very smoothly, and it was nice. And they had a little conference area set up for us. And we had office hours to meet with the various representatives, because there was people from Cunard and some of the other lines. They're all under the Carnival umbrella mostly, but we met from representatives from Carnival, from Holland America, from Cunard, also from Virgin, which was very cool and informative for me. I'm very interested in looking into those in the future as well. So I learned a lot about kind of what's out there. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest, but there's a lot of stuff out there.
That's a
Um,
typical event. When we go into any of these events, we come in just feeling like shell shocked almost.
and they ran it really nicely. They gave us plenty. It wasn't like we were doing that every single morning, every single day. We had a lot of free time to explore and just enjoy. And then every evening, we met with some people in groups for dinner, in small groups, and it was very nice. I got to know everybody.
So, uh, what do you see as the advantages? What would you say if we have any potential group leaders out there, group leaders, anybody who has a following, if whatever you are, it can be church groups, it can be like Jason's photography groups, and anything with any kind of group affiliation whatsoever. You can take your events on a cruise ship like this and hold seminars at sea. What would you say would be the advantage to doing this on a ship rather than, say, a hotel conference center?
I think, well, I think there's a lot of good things about it, actually, because, first and foremost, you're in a setting that is designed for, vacation, right? And you could have that at a hotel, but, on a cruise, all the meals are included. It's all inclusive. So you're going to get that experience. And if you organize your group right, it's the perfect way to go on a business trip with your spouse or your significant other, because there's plenty of stuff for them to do while you might be in a meeting for a few hours or something like that. There's no shortage of that, and you just have a really good time. So it's kind of a nice balance between work and play. I think that's the
Exactly.
best way to describe it. And you don't
Ex-
have to worry about transportation. You don't have to worry about where we're going to go to eat tonight. You don't have to worry about, because I think, even the best conference hotels, unless you're at some sort of massive resort complex, they don't have that much really going on. I mean, there's the hotel rooms, which are wherever you might be, and then there's, the conference area, and maybe there's a hotel, restaurant, and bar. I think on the ship you have just a greater diversity of stuff to do, stuff to eat, and stuff to enjoy.
that's true, and I love that it's so inclusive. I mean, a land based resort, they nickel and dime you for everything, um, and with a cruise, you pay for it one time, and then entertainment, meals, transportation, meeting space. It's all right there, all
Mm-hmm.
included in one package. And today, so many of the cruise lines are also offering their always included type of amenities where you can fold in the drink package and the uh, Wi-Fi and gratuities and various other. It varies by cruise line,
Right.
but you can really put together packages that have so much bang for the buck. It's
I mean,
really,
there's the
really,
spa on board. I mean, obviously those are at extra cost, but you can really get a lot of value, um, and no shortage of things to do.
you know. So now that you've experienced, I don't know if anybody else in our group has done that transatlantic. I was supposed to do that in 2020, but that didn't happen. So I think you may be the only one of us who has actually done the transatlantic crossing. Who do you think, if you're talking to people, our listeners out there, what people do you think should have this iconic experience on their bucket list?
Um, it's interesting. I definitely think um, it's not ridiculously expensive from a cruise perspective. Um, but you do have to factor in that when you go across and you're now in England, you're going to have to fly home from the UK and getting those tickets. So the air component was a little bit more um, challenging, so to speak. With fares and being what they are. But I think anybody who's looking for an informative, I don't want to say traditional cruise experience, but this, so many Americans have come over, immigrated to the US, historically on transatlantic voyages, not on the Queen Mary 2, of course, but I think there's this historical nostalgic vibe that you get on a trip like this. You're really going on a classic ocean cruise, across to a different country that it's so different from the kind of cruise that you would do in the Caribbean or something like that. And it's elegant, but it wasn't over the top. Like, it wasn't stuffy. I didn't feel at any point that there was issues with that. And they had two formal nights. I enjoyed both of them. It was just kind of nice to do that. But if I didn't want to do that, I could have, just like any other cruise, I could have eaten somewhere else, or
Yeah.
gone kind of low key.
Nobody makes you walk the plank if you don't don the
Yeah,
top.
and it's an amazing ship, and you know, like you had mentioned, it is built differently than a traditional cruise ship because it is built to withstand the ocean crossing and be more stable. So, it's probably not what you're going to want to do with your little kids. Although they do take kids and they do allow pets on board. There's a kennel aboard Queen
Yes.
Mary 2, and apparently it fills up the first thing. That's the first thing that fills up. They say if you want to travel on Queen Mary 2 with your pet, and they pamper these pets. They had them all out in their little blankets that said Queen Mary 2, and the dogs were out being walked out on the sun deck, and it was amazing. But if you want to do that, what they say to do is just find a booking that has a kennel space open, and then plan the rest of your
Then
vacation
plan the
around that.
rest of your trip. I
Because
gotta ask you, you sent me this picture.
yes,
Explain this to me.
oh, it's just a floral decoration made to look
Okay.
like a peacock. It was in the lobby of the ship, and they had it on display. It was just pretty cool, artistic stuff that they did for us to have during
Okay.
the sailing.
I mean, that's really well done. I'm like, is that a real, that can't be a real bird there in the
No,
lobby. Cannot be.
there were some real peacock feathers, but that was the extent of it.
That's a beautiful, beautiful staircase there too. Just
Yeah, there was
gorgeous.
lots of that on board this ship. And one other thing I would just definitely say, as it turns out that Cunard has a very, very loyal client base. Their clients are traditionally repeat cruisers. I mean, we met people on the cruise who, yeah, we do this every few years. This is our fourth crossing and whatever. There are some things that, because a lot of people are repeat clients, they have a lot of inside info. So one of the things that you can do, it's not included, is they have a fancy champagne high tea service. And it's only on one of the days, and it's in one of the little side bar areas. If you don't book that literally the day you set foot on board, by the time they announce that it's there and they tell you how to book it, it will be booked, filled. It will be gone. So and as you can imagine, I didn't know enough to do that. I had a great time with the regular tea service every day, which was included. But if you want to do that one, you're going to have to get in there and book it right away, because a lot of people know about this. This is their tradition, and that's what, so they've already done it before you even showed up.
Okay, there you have it, folks. The insider info. If you sail on Cunard, you want to book that special champagne tea first thing when you step on board. Jason, I'm so mindful of the time that goes so far. I just wanted to do this sunset shot. I assume that's a sunset, not a
Yes,
sunrise.
that was a sunset. That was about 6 days into our journey.
Just beautiful. I'm so mindful of the time that it goes so quickly. I've enjoyed so much hearing the details about your trip. We hadn't had a chance to really touch base on it. So this has been enlightening for me as well as our listeners. Folks, as always, we have a giveaway. We have a drawing every week for our live listeners only. You have to listen live if you want to get in on our drawing. So if you are live tonight with us, in the comments section, I want you to just enter Queen Mary in the comments section, and you will be entered to, somebody is going to win this assortment of fine English teas. You have 4 varieties: the English breakfast, the famous iconic Earl Grey, Irish breakfast. Now, I'm not sure how that differs from English breakfast, but you can do a taste test and let me know. And then the Lady Grey tea. So if you're listening live, Queen Mary in the comments section, and some one of you, we will be sending out those fine English teas to you as a thank you for listening live. So Jason, thank you again. We so appreciate your taking the time this evening to share with us about your trip. And folks, just happy to announce that pesky travel requirement for the test to come back to the U.S. that Jason had to do in order to get back and get on his flight, that negative test requirement, that went away. It is gone, hopefully forever, but you don't have to test anymore. So you don't have that uncertainty hanging over you with international travel any longer. If you're traveling abroad, you just will be able to board your aircraft like you always have without presenting a negative COVID test. So that is going to open things up for international travelers, I do believe.
Getting home, there's that uncertainty about being able to get home. I think we can all relax a little bit. I mean, no one wants to be sick, right? But
that's right.
But at least if you're okay, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, what if I get stuck in some other country?
Exactly. I've only, and all the travelers we've had out there, I've only had one that happened to, but that's one too many as far as I'm concerned. You just don't want to see that happen to your client. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again, Jason. And stay tuned. Again, next week, we'll be featuring another one of our Dancing Moon travel advisors here to share about their recent travelers. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.